After leaving the Walking Dead crew, Eric dropped by and went to the Legally Blonde 2 crew next to him. This project started in mid-January, but since it is a sequel, I have experience in filming. And it wasn't Eric who made the decision after he came, so he didn't pay much attention to it, and the producer reported the progress twice, and he didn't pay much attention to it. Today, I suddenly remembered that the heroine of this play is Reese Witherspoon, the well-known sweetheart in Hollywood. And it was 2001's Legally Blonde that established her sweetheart status, and it was this film that made Witherspoon a well-known movie star. In 1999, she also made a cameo appearance as Rachel's sister in Friends, when Jennifer Aniston was America's sweetheart. By 2001, both of them were sweethearts, but unfortunately the development gap has been highlighted, and this gap will further widen in the future. Aniston still can't jump out of the small screen, and Witherspoon has spread his wings on the big screen. Crew, Eric and Witherspoon shook hands. It was the latter who stretched out his hand first, and this was the first time the two met. Reese Witherspoon, just call me Reese. Blonde girl smiled sweetly, and her little face had a mischievous baby fat. Eric Cooper, first time we met, but I'm sure we'll get acquainted later. Letting go of his hand, Eric asked, what about the director? Where did Charles Winfield go? The assistant director next to him hurriedly replied, he went to the bathroom. It seems that he had a bad stomach last night. Is it serious? If the situation is not good, you should go to the doctor, and there is no rush for filming. Eric showed affection at the right time, and with his handsome appearance, there was no trace of any capitalist exploitative temperament. A few people around couldn't help but sigh in their hearts. What a good person. Other companies are desperately urging, and a day of delay is a day's money, and Mr. Cooper Jr. is too merciful. But those MGM veteran employees didn't think so. They knew too well that the guy in front of them fired more than half of the executives on the first day he took charge of the company. Would rather lose money than let those people get out, which shows that he is ruthless. After chatting for a few words, Witherspoon suddenly said with some gratitude, Eric, I've always wanted to thank you. What? Why? This is supposed to be our first time meeting. Are we childhood sweethearts? I've helped you before, asked Eric curiously. Witherspoon laughed. Of course not. I heard that you killed a lot of scripts when you took office, and I am of course grateful to you for keeping Legally Blonde. Eric suddenly realized that Witherspoon's masterpiece is Legally Blonde, and his status is not yet secure. If she cuts the sequel herself, it is estimated that she will cry to death behind her back, and if she is unlucky enough to receive a good book, she will not be able to slow down for a few years, and she may slowly disappear from everyone. Reese, you deserve it. Being killed by me only means that they are terrible, and you are excellent. I appreciate you and am very optimistic about your future development. Hearing this, Witherspoon's pupils contracted sharply, and Eric noticed that her hands were shaking suddenly. Realizing that he had said the wrong thing, Eric hurriedly added, Of course, I'm talking about acting. Witherspoon smiled a little stiffly, seeing the other party like this. Eric didn't want to stay longer. At this time, director Charles Winfield came out of the bathroom holding his stomach and was about to come over to say hello, when he saw Eric turn around and leave, touching his head a little strangely. In the car, Eric suddenly remembered the Me Too movement before the crossing, which was a women's boxing storm. Many Hollywood actresses have used this movement to speak out about their experiences of persecution, and this movement has directly or indirectly sent Harvey Weinstein to prison. And Reese Witherspoon, who had already turned into a producer boss at the time, also told her unbearable past. A beautiful girl with no background. What will happen when she enters the entertainment industry? You can see one or two from her. Witherspoon received a call from the director at the age of 16 and went to the audition in high spirits, but unfortunately he was sexually assaulted after arriving. When she told the agent about it, the agent didn't care at all, and only told her that if she wanted to survive in this circle, she had to learn to accept the unspoken rules. In the following years, she did not have any good works, and it is said that because she did not want to accept the unspoken rules, she could not get good resources. But even so, he still suffered some sexual assault during the period until he took over the filming of Legally Blonde and became popular. To this extent, ordinary directors and producers no longer have the ability to uncover the unspoken rules of her. But Eric is different. He has enough power to keep Witherspoon in order. So hearing the sentence, "I appreciate you very much," should awaken the unbearable in the depths of memory. 2 days later, Frank Drabant arrived at the MGM building with a rough cut of the first episode of The Walking Dead, and Dad had the rare time to attend the internal preview today. The rough cut version of the first episode is only 45 minutes, and although the rendering of the post-apocalyptic feeling is still almost meaningful, this aspect can be made up for in the later stage. And this flaw doesn't matter. The zombies that rush will not give the audience time to think at all. After reading it, everyone gave Drabanti a round of applause. Volvo, the head of marketing who had always been skeptical about the project, also excitedly expressed his praise. Eric gave a thumbs up to the Drabant. "Frank, like I said, I'm convinced of your abilities." The Drabant grinned. "Ha ha ha, this is still thanks to the excellent script and financial support provided by MGM. A TV series invested $40 million US. I know what that means. Many big-name stars in movies can't get this fund. And I have a hunch that The Walking Dead is going to be my most satisfying work after The Shawshank Redemption and Miracle in the Green Mile." Eric looked at the crowd. "Do you have any other opinions?" "You look at me and I look at you, and no one made a sound." "In that case, then contact HBO, Showtime, Stars, AMC, FX, in short, all the cable stations." Having made contact within a week with the quality of The Walking Dead, I don't think they're fools. "Volvo, today is Tuesday, and I'm going to get all the offers and deals from all the cable stations by next Friday." Volvo nodded. "No questions. I will give you the result as soon as possible. By the way, don't forget to tell them that MGM is going to be used to hit the Emmys, so the airtime is also an important factor for us to consider." "Understood." The crowd dispersed, leaving only Cooper and his son. "Dad, how are things going with Double Star Entertainment?" "It's advancing. I've already contacted a private equity fund, and they're very professional in doing this kind of thing, and it won't take long for the results to come to fruition." "I also have something to ask you, Eric. I heard Kenny say, what is your plan for him to contact people in Silicon Valley? What do you want to do? Do you do technology research and development?" Dad doesn't ask about this. Eric will find time to tell him that the two fathers and sons have nothing to hide. "Dad, I'm planning to enter the network field, but it's just a preliminary idea. I think I'll report back to you when it's mature." Dad frowned. "Internet. This is not a good time. The stock market crash has only been over for a long time. It is like a forbidden area, and it is expanding too fast. I am worried that MGM's funds will be tight. There are so many places where the company needs money. There are loans to repay. There is also the acquisition of shares in Double Star Entertainment, and we are in talks with DreamWorks. If you want to buy stocks, I have no opinion. Microsoft, Oracle, Google. These are the high-quality resources that the market is generally optimistic about. Yahoo is okay, and now it is in trouble of its own." Eric shook his head slightly. "Dad, you misunderstood. I don't mean to buy stocks. Of course stocks can also be bought, but that's not the point." "What the hell do you want to do?" "What I want to do is to really enter the internet field, build my own internet company, and develop a social network and network platform that only belongs to us." Dad hesitated for a moment, as if he was thinking carefully about his words, but still looked at Eric suspiciously. "I don't understand what you're talking about. We also have an online platform. We have our own official website, isn't that?" As a middle-aged person in his 50s, or someone who is about to enter old age, Charlie Cooper naturally lags behind in accepting new things. This is a common problem of people living in their own life experience, and not wanting to accept new things from the bottom of their hearts. Because those new things are likely to destroy their cognition and even destroy the empire they have built. A good example of this is media mogul Rupert Murdoch. In another 5 or 6 years, the development of online media will reach a new height, while traditional paper media will face the danger of elimination. But for Mr. Murdoch, who made his fortune in print media, abandoning the newspapers he was proud of was cutting his flesh, even if the industries were already low in profits or losing money. But what is the result? Murdoch was forced by his son and a number of executives to cut off the print media business from the group. In the end, even this man, who holds the throat of public opinion and can influence the presidential election, has to make compromises. He left $2.6 billion in reserve funds for his print media empire, hoping to be reborn. Other print media groups, like them, were all abandoned, and the worst one was Newsweek, which was sold for $1. That's right, it's $1, because there is so much foreign debt. If you tell him about the development trend of the internet, he may not be able to understand it, so he has to say something more practical. Dad, the reason why I want to enter the internet field is actually for the development of MGM. Especially with this production of The Walking Dead. It's especially strong, and I ask you, when the TV series is made, why can't we do it ourselves? Why sell it to those TV stations? Because we don't have a broadcast channel. If we don't sell it to the TV station, isn't the investment equivalent to a wasted water? Without hesitation, Dad replied that the pattern had been fixed in his mind for decades and felt reasonable. But Eric, the traverser, must have felt unreasonable, and he continued to ask, "So why don't we build our own channels?" Dad laughed. "Eric, that's impossible. Do you know how difficult it is to set up a TV station? Do you know how much money you need? Even if we have enough money, you have to communicate with the local TV stations and then build your own TV network. Then you're going to have to face the encirclement of the existing TV stations, and they won't allow a new person to cut the cake, which is absolutely impossible. Under the pressure of these established TV stations, I'm afraid no local station will sign us up." Eric nodded. "Yes, I understand, and we all know that these TV stations are backed by major groups. Behind FX is Fox, and behind Fox is Murdoch, and he has our rival, 20th Century Fox, and behind AMC is Rainbow Media, and behind Rainbow Media is CVC Group. Behind NBC is General Electric, HBO belongs to Time Warner, and Time Warner has our rival Warner Films. Behind Starz stands the Liberty Media Group, and Showtime belongs to Viacom. In short, all the TV stations you can think of, there is a strong capital group behind it, and we can't compete, at least not at the moment. But I'm not reconciled. I don't want to sell the film and television dramas I worked so hard to make to them, which is equivalent to us making money for our opponents. So I want to build an online platform, to be precise, an online on-demand platform, and put our works on our platform for broadcast, which is my idea, and it is also based on the general trend of internet development. Dad, in the near future, the internet will be the only way out, and it is one of the few opportunities we can seize." Looking at her son in an excited tone, Charlie Cooper suddenly felt a little incomprehensible about this child, and always felt that she didn't feel like the child she had watched for more than 20 years. It seems that since the Leonti accident, he has become a stranger, as if he has changed a person, a different soul. All of a sudden, he understands cinema, and all of a sudden, even the director and screenwriter do, and everything is weird. How could Charlie Cooper not have doubts? But hearing Eric call him his father dispelled that doubt. But at this moment, he was still shocked. After decades of fighting in the circle, he could hear what Eric meant, but he didn't expect that his son's ambition would be so big. While he was content to make MGM better, Eric was looking at the real big groups. He felt that such an idea was ridiculous and impossible to achieve. But looking at his passionate son, I felt that it might not be that my son was too arrogant, but that he was really old and did not have the ambition of his youth. Eventually, Shaylee Cooper sighed, "Eric, although I don't know much about the internet, at least I know one thing. If you really want to engage in online viewing platforms, we will definitely have a stormy attack. Because this is subverting the basic disc of all current film and television companies and TV stations. You are digging their roots." From the bottom of my heart, I think it was the wrong decision, and it could lead MGM to the point of no return. But as a father, I knew I had to support my son. "So go ahead, and I'll do everything I can to keep you out of the wind and rain until you fall." The attitude of the major TV stations. Dad doesn't know what he wants to do, but it doesn't matter, as long as he fully supports it. When the results first appear, he will understand. At the same time, Eric couldn't help but sigh that he was really lucky to have such a good father. In Charlie Cooper's opinion, as long as his son wants to do something, even if it seems ridiculous, he is still willing to try. And the model that Eric is talking about is naturally Netflix, and there are also Youku, Todo, Penguin Videos, and the like in Huaxia. Although Netflix has been established for several years, this company is still in the videotape rental business, competing with Pepsi for the market, and does not care about anything else. The restrictions of the times have made it not realize the importance of streaming platforms. Then I'm sorry, I have to take the lead. As for investing in Netflix or acquiring Netflix, the first acquirer will definitely not agree. After all, now that Pepsi Card is losing and retreating, the situation in Netflix is very good. If you invest, it's better to do it yourself. How can other people's compare to your own? But just like my dad worried, once he really got this platform, he would inevitably be regarded as a thorn in the side of major TV stations. It is conceivable that they will never authorize themselves to film and television dramas, and MGM will face a situation where only their own film library can use it. If you want to break the game, you can only continue to output high-quality content and improve user stickiness through high-quality works and price wars. At the same time, Eric has to develop two wings of companies that support each other, Facebook and YouTube. Neither of these companies has yet to show up, so it's a good time to get started. The former will provide strong social media support and drainage, while the latter will allow MGM's new works to be used for secondary creation and promotion. After the accounts are exchanged, a 3-in-1 pattern is formed. Later, it can be supported by a chat software similar to WeChat or QQ, but there are Microsoft's MSN and Google in this regard, which is not easy to do. If you want to get involved, you can only wait until the overall situation is stable, otherwise Google and Microsoft will be stuck in technical support. Just wait to kneel. And then there's Twitter, which has a different style from all three, and it can't support each other for a while after it comes out, so you can put it aside a little. When the time came to March 10th, Eric flew to Oregon in the middle to see the crew of Transformers. Everything was going normally, and Patty Jenkins was very reliable as an executor. I went to Weta Digital to check the progress of the special effects, and the progress was not slow. Almost more than a third of the work has been completed. The person in charge told him that more than half of the machines in the entire company were working for Transformers, and even Peter Jackson's Lord of the Rings 3 was compressed. He knew that what the other party said must be a lie, but Eric still expressed his gratitude. You must know that the Lord of the Rings trilogy was launched at the same time. Even if the progress is not in the same order, I am afraid that it has now reached the final stage. Not everyone is as familiar with the plot as they are, and bearded people don't fight unprepared battles. In terms of films, the script for Get Out has been completed, and Revenal went to Eric's house to have him review it. The two stayed in the study for a whole day to revise, and the script was roughly finalized. After that, I found a script doctor and added stocks that only the Black community would talk about, adding some racial ridicule. Neither Eric nor Ravorner are proficient in this area, and they must find a black screenwriter to make it, and the film is expected to start official casting in half a month. On AK Films' side, the script of Human Eradication Project has been completed, and Eric let them start filming without reading it, and the investment is set at $4 million. The director did not choose James DeMonarch in the original time and space. Eric learned that this guy is still just a screenwriter, although he has been in the industry for a long time, but he has no experience in independent production, and he can't afford to be a director. This position finally fell to Anthony Ferrante, the director of Sharknado, whose work this year has been determined, filming Human Removal Project in the first half of the year and Sharknado 2 in the second half of the year, and gradually binding deeply with AK Film and Television. In addition, AK Films' copycat films, Chainsaw Elf and Dragonfly, also sold the copyrights, all of which were sold to local TV stations. Chainsaw Elf was sold to 42 companies, and Dragonfly was sold to 61 companies, making a total profit of about $4.8 million. The total cost of the two copycat movies is only $1.5 million, without publicity, and the gross profit is $3.3 million. In addition, it is a small company, with preferential tax rates and subsidy policies. In fact, the $3.3 million only needs to pay about $100,000 in taxes. Even if you deduct operating costs such as water, electricity, and labor, you can almost get a net profit of between $2.9 million and $3 million. And how long does it take to make a movie of this genre? The answer is about a month, and if it is fast, it can be done in more than half a month and 20 days. But the already rough quality has become even inferior. Eric's target for AK Films is to shoot no less than 20 films a year, and there is no upper limit to more. As long as you can rub off on the traffic of popular film and television dramas, you will shoot me hard. As for DVDs and peripherals, don't think about this kind of copycat. Only the level of Sharknado can enjoy this kind of treatment. So far, about 240,000 copies of the Sharknado tape have been sold, and this number will continue to grow. Wednesday, MGM Building, Eric's office. As the head of the marketing department, Volvo is still so efficient that he sets his own deadline for Friday, and he can always finish it ahead of schedule. Volvo handed over the report. During this time, we went to all the big cable stations and completed internal test screenings, and the response from all the stations was very good. They're all complimenting, saying it's a groundbreaking TV series, and everybody doesn't skimp on compliments, and every TV station wants to take it. Volvo said with a smile about the experience of the past few days. He used to be just the manager of a small film company, and it was the first time in his life to experience such a beautiful thing. Letting Volvo sit down, Eric carefully flipped through the report. The first is AMC, the broadcast station of the original Spacetime, The Walking Dead. They gave an offer of $4 million each for the first 3 episodes, and the rest depends on the ratings. The ratings are calculated based on cable stations, with the age range of 18 to 49 years old, based on 4%. For every 0.5 percentage point increase, the price of each subsequent episode will increase by $1 million, with no upper limit. In terms of broadcast time, AMC is willing to take out a quasi-prime time for broadcasting, that is, between 7 and 8 p.m. If the effect is good, it will be adjusted to the prime time broadcast. After reading the agreement given by AMC, Eric only felt that he was barely able to meet his psychological expectations. While the ratings-based algorithm is fair and acceptable for people aged 18 to 49, a 4% base is not a low starting point. According to the data of 2002, the total household population in the United States is about 290 million, the total number of households is about 97 million, and the number of cable channel subscribers is about 85 million and about 250 million people. The total population of the 18 to 49 age group is about 115 million, And the total population of the 18 to 49 age group who subscribe to cable channels is about 95 million. 4% of the 95 million people accounted for 3.8 million. In other words, when The Walking Dead is broadcast, at least 3.8 million people must watch it at the same time in the same time period to meet the basic standard. And if you want to take it up a notch, you have to increase the ratings by 0.5. That translates to a 4.5% rating and 4.27 million people watching at the same time. The number of episodes that follow The Walking Dead can fetch $5 million per episode. With a 5% rating and 4.75 million simultaneous viewers, the number of episodes that follow The Walking Dead can fetch $6 million per episode. This data may make many people wonder, why do we have to use the 18 to 49 age group as the statistical standard and not the whole age group? The answer is no, because it is related to advertising, and in the eyes of advertisers, the people with the most potential for consumption are those in the 18 to 49 age group. Businessmen will invest a high amount of advertising money for this age group, as for other age groups. The halving is light, and it is normal to cut it directly to 30% in serious cases. And some people will wonder, isn't it that cable stations don't sell ads, but live on paid subscriptions? However, this kind of cognition is not comprehensive. To be precise, cable stations are divided into two types, basic and advanced. Basic cable stations still sell ads, and AMC is a basic cable station, so even if users have to pay, it will still insert ads. The trade-off is a lower subscription fee than a premium cable station, which cost $8.99 per month for an AMC channel subscription in 2003. Premium cable stations, on the other hand, are pure content and don't have ads at all, but the subscription fee is more expensive. HBO, FX, Stars, etc. are all premium cable stations. HBO, the most powerful and paying company, paid $12.99 a month in 2003. The difference between the two is $4, and the difference is the advertising fee. In addition, in the United States, the subscription of cable stations is not as simple as many Chinese people think. In 2003, there was almost nothing that could not be received by the whole country, which was similar to public television stations such as ABC, CBS, NBC. However, if you do not install a satellite signal receiver, which is commonly known as the cauldron equipment, you can only receive a set of central channels and some local channels in the province by relying solely on antennas, and it is almost impossible to watch channels in other provinces. This cauldron was the cable station and cable channel in many people in China at that time, and the whole process only needs to spend money once, regardless of whether you get the set-top box from regular or illegal channels. However, this is not the case at all in the United States, where the media business is developed, and in 2003 there were more than 100 cable channels in the United States. And for viewers, they have to pay for which channel they want to watch. And if you want to watch AMC dramas and HBO dramas at the same time, you have to subscribe to both at the same time. If you still want to watch FX and Stars Works, you have to continue to pay for subscriptions. Well-known cable stations have their own housekeeping skills, and the audience of Hook has to pay for their own desires. But the average family can't subscribe to all the channels and will only choose a few of their favorites. Therefore, among the 85 million households that have subscribed to cable stations, each station occupies a different weight. The strongest HBO 2002 year release data has already exceeded the 40 million subscriber mark. AMC is about 25 million, Stars is about 22 million, Showtime is about 20 million, and FX is about 28 million. At the same time, if the audience subscribes to your channel, it does not mean that they will watch all the programs in the channel and may only watch one or two. Any drama with a cable station rating of 5% is enough to become a rare existence. After understanding this logic and looking at the agreement given by AMC, you can understand why Eric is not too satisfied. He continued to look at the report, and the conditions of FX were stronger than AMC, and Showtime was much stronger than AMC. And the best ones to give are HBO and Starz. The former is willing to buy the entire season for $8 million per episode, and HBO is willing to pay another $10 million to MGM if it brings more than 3 million new subscribers to HBO after the season is over. If the goal is achieved, HBO will spend a total of $106 million to buy the first season of The Walking Dead from MGM. Although the price is not as good as the $120 million of Band of Brothers, it is the work of the great director Spielberg after all, and there are a large number of stars involved, and The Walking Dead is far behind in this regard. Starz offered $7 million per episode, and if it could bring more than 5 million new subscribers to the channel after the end of the season, Starz was willing to make up the difference of $3 million per episode, which is a total of $120 million, just equal to Band of Brothers. Looking at the intentions of the two TV stations, Eric was also a little hesitant. He looked at Volvo and asked, "What do you think?" Knowing that the boss was going to ask the question, Volvo had clearly done the research. "Personally, I prefer to work with Starz." Reason: Volvo organized the language and said, "By choosing it, we can make an extra $14 million, and I think that's the biggest reason. As for what it takes to attract 5 million new subscribers, I don't think that's a problem." Starz currently has only 22 million subscriptions, which is the second lowest market share among several cable giants, and everyone knows that the smaller the base, the easier it is to improve. The reason why many TV stations can't develop is often that funding is not the most important thing, and the lack of good ideas is the core problem. Starz is like that. It just lacks a popular drama, and when this drama comes out, it's easy to pull subscriptions, just grab it from other channels. On the other hand, HBO, with its current size, I don't think it's easy to add 3 million new subscriptions. Even Band of Brothers only drove more than 3 million new subscribers in the end. That was back in 2001, and that number is only going to get harder and harder to achieve as HBO grows. Volvo looked at Eric, and then heard the latter's decision in disbelief. "Choose HBO and get ready to sign a deal." Volvo opened his mouth to ask as if he didn't understand, but seemed to feel that questioning the boss's decision was not the right thing for a good subordinate to do, and Eric made the right decision every time. Looking at his surprised look, Eric didn't explain too much, waved his hand to let Volvo out. He had his own considerations. When MGM's own video site was founded, it is definitely necessary to create a hit show to attract the audience. According to MGM's current filming plan, Transformers will have to wait until next year even if it hits the platform, so The Walking Dead can undoubtedly serve as a hit this year. Since it is a hit, it must be known to more people, so HBO's basic disc is obviously bigger than Starz, and the advantage is stronger. For the sake of the future, it is not impossible to give up the $14 million. After all, when the video platform is stabilized, the entire DVD business will be significantly affected, and this piece of meat will be more painful to cut. Double Star Entertainment. The Olsen sisters have just finished attending a business event to endorse a children's brand of toiletries. Looking at the 7 or 8-year-old girls and boys in the audience, as well as a small number of teenagers, the Olsen sisters' hearts were abrupt. Children, still children, it seems that the two sisters have been deeply bound to children, and they deal with these little children wherever they go. Those noisy chatters are tiresome, and they all say that children's smiles are the cutest, but after watching it for more than 10 years, it can't help but be a little boring. Finally finished the activity process, and smirked for more than an hour the whole time, making the two sisters feel that their apple muscles were about to stiffen. Now that I'm back at my own company, I can finally relax a little. Sitting in a special lounge, as the majority shareholder of the company, they have this privilege. A plush bed, an exaggerated dressing table, and even a bathroom with a beautiful bathtub is the only place to melt away the fatigue of work. Slumped on the couch and enjoying the services of a professional masseuse, her sister Ashley Olsen said quietly, "Now I feel very tired just attending an event, which was not the case before." My sister Mary Olsen felt the same way. "I think the reason is not physically tired, but mental. Our hearts are too tired." "Yes, I'm tired of being in this state." "Ashley, why hasn't that guy contacted us?" "That script hasn't been revised yet, okay? The last time I watched it at MGM, it was already a very mature book, and I thought it was 100 times better than the New York moment." The force coming from her shoulder made Ashley Olsen can't help but moan in comfort, and she closed her eyes and said, "Mary, Adele's life is a literary film. Of course it needs to be carefully crafted. Actually, I would like MGM to put more effort into the book, knowing that this may be our last chance, and the better the polish, the better it will be for us." As she spoke, she suddenly waved her hand irritably. "As for that stupid New York moment, a bad street script, it actually cost us $500,000 before and after. Damn it." Mary Olsen smiled self-deprecatingly. "Maybe think about it on the bright side. It's this bad script that makes us fly to New York to pull investment, and then we can meet that guy, Eric Cooper. But he's also a nuisance, and the smell of greed fills almost all of his body, like rotting leaves." Knock. Knock. At that moment, there was a knock on the door. "Sister, it's me." Hearing the energetic voice outside the door, the two sisters glanced at each other, and they were a little envious of their little sister. The door opened, and Elizabeth Olsen ran in, although the clothes on her body were on the thick side, but they could not hide her cute temperament, and her smile was sweeter than that of her two sisters. And the most enviable thing for the two sisters is their height. Although they are only 14 years old, Elizabeth Olsen's height is already comparable to that of the two sisters. "If you're here, I'll know." Elizabeth took it upon herself to sit down on the third massage chair, which she often visited. "Elizabeth, are you done filming?" The little girl nodded lightly. "It's just a cameo, and it's over soon." As he spoke, he stared at the faces of his two sisters. "OMG, why do you look so tired?" "It's nothing, it's just a little tired, and you don't feel it yet." Elizabeth pouted. "Are you saying I'm not famous enough? Though I know this is true. After all, when everyone mentions the Olsen sisters, they are talking about the two of you, and no one has ever cared about me." Little sister was coquettish, and Ashley Olsen's tone immediately became doting. "Elizabeth, you're young. It's too early to worry about it. You'll find your way, and our whole family is convinced that you can be a big star." Mary Olsen added, "But remember, don't go my way with Ashley. You should go to the big screen. Don't spend too much time on the small screen. That will limit your development." Elizabeth frowned. "However, no one asked me to film. I wanted to play very little spy, but the crew said that I was not suitable. They gave this role to Alyssa Vega. The second part of the movie was released in August last year, and it also won more than $100 million at the box office. And now Alyssa Vega is the hottest teenage female star." Waving his hand, he motioned for the masseur to go out, and only the three sisters were left in the room. Mary Olsen then said, "Elizabeth, it is not necessarily a good thing to become famous too early. It will put you in Vanity Fair too early, and it will wear out the aura of the actor. There are too many young and famous actors who have abandoned their studies. Not everyone is a genius. Most people will not exercise their acting skills from movies, but will slowly fix their acting skills as they increase their acting, and will only perform in the most comfortable and labor-saving way, becoming formulaic." Ashley Olsen abruptly interrupted. "Wait, you seem to be talking about ourselves. Isn't it? There are often fans who criticize our acting skills for being the same, smiling, smirking, frowning, pouting, and then accompanied by a few exaggerated body movements. Don't you pay attention to the comments of the fans?" Ashley Olsen's eyes widened. Of course I pay attention, but I only pay attention to those who like me, and those who scold me and never look at them, although I know that what they say may be right. I really envy you. I can't ignore those Black fans. I see them scolding me and being angry, but if I don't look at it, I feel that something is missing, alas. Elizabeth Olsen jumped out of the massage chair and took out 2 chocolate candies from her pocket and threw them to her sister. If you're not happy, eat this. I took it when I came out of the crew, and then I played New York Moment well, and everyone will change their opinion of you. Looking at the innocent little girl in front of her, Ashley Olsen smiled bitterly. Elizabeth, I forgot to tell you bad news. New York Moment has been canceled. What? What about my character? No, it's all gone. Everyone says that the script is too bad, and it's just a loss of money to shoot it. But I think the script is very good, inspirational, funny, youthful, and enthusiastic, and I love this story. Ashley Olsen took Elizabeth into her arms and gently stroked her head. Yes, that's why it failed, because only people of your age like it, and slightly more mature audiences don't watch this type of movie anymore. But don't worry, Elizabeth, we've found new projects, and the film is great and could win an award. Is there a role for me? I heard that it was a movie that would win awards, Elizabeth Olsen asked, her eyes full of longing. I'm not sure, but both Mary and I have read the script, and it doesn't seem to have a role for teenagers. Ow. Found that the little sister was a little lost. After all, the originally scheduled role was suddenly gone, and the 2 sisters couldn't help but feel a little guilty. Elizabeth, this movie was invested by MGM, and we can't call the shots. Well, we'll give Eric a suggestion. Maybe he can give you a role in another movie. Eric Cooper, the VP of MGM, Elizabeth Olsen said with some surprise as she pushed her sister away. Yes, it's him. You know Eric Cooper? Elizabeth's eyes lit up. Of course I know. He has been appearing in the media lately. Oh my God, he's so handsome, more handsome than many male stars. You've met. Is he as handsome as the media reports? Although Eric's deepest impression on the Olsen sisters was greed, he recalled in his heart that the guy's handsomeness was real, and his appearance was comparable to Leonardo DiCaprio in Titanic. Coupled with his status, if he is willing to make idol dramas, I am afraid that he will become the dream of American girls in an instant. Yes, Eric Cooper does look extraordinary. Can you take me to meet him? Said Elizabeth Olsen, like a star-chasing fan. No problem, I think we'll meet again soon. Take you with me then. Yes. Bang. The 3 sisters were talking happily when the door to the lounge was suddenly pushed open, and a middle-aged man with glasses barged in. Ashley, Mary, what do you want to do? At the morning event, the advertiser complained to me about your unprofessional behavior. Looking at the man in front of them, the 3 sisters immediately put away the smile on their faces, and Elizabeth hid back. She was a little afraid of this man. Robert, we arrived early to interact with the fans and introduce the product, and I didn't feel like I was acting unprofessionally. Besides, as I've said before, this is our private space, and you can't just break in without my and Mary's consent. For this man who has single-handedly created himself and wants to control himself all the time, the Olsen sisters don't want to give a good face at all. Obviously, Robert Solnay is also aware of the contradictions between them. The relationship between the 2 sides has long been irreconcilable, and it is purely a matter of interest to be able to connect together. However, the performance of Double Star Entertainment has continued to decline in recent years, and the 2 sisters are not very obedient. After calming down, Robert Solnay asked, Ashley, I heard that you gave up on the New York Moment. Why don't you discuss it with me? You gave up a good opportunity. Mary Olsen snorted coldly. We don't need New York Moments anymore because we'll have new movies soon. What? How do I not know this? What kind of movie it is? Confidential. You. Seeing the determined eyes of the Olsen sisters, Robert Solnay understood that it was boring to continue and turned away with a sneer. Seeing the annoyant leave, little Elizabeth asked, "Isn't that good?" Mr. Solney seemed angry. "Rest assured, someone will clean him up." In the hallway, Robert Solney only felt depressed, and the Olsen sisters became more and more presumptuous, and even did not take themselves seriously at all. "I hate that I only have 45% of the shares of Double Star Entertainment in my hands, and I can't help them." Back in his office, Solney stroked his forehead, remembering the incident of the other day. A Wall Street private equity fund contacted him through a friend and said that there was a good project that was attracting investment. And this project turned out to be MGM in need of financing, and Robert Solney met with each other under the lead of a friend. Mr. Solney, as a Hollywood person, you should know very well that MGM is now trying to raise money through private equity to expand production, and this is a high-quality project. Sounds good, but I don't understand why MGM is suddenly asking for fundraising, which has been gaining momentum lately and is making money on new films. Solney asked. Hee. Good development does not mean that there is no shortage of money. Cooper and his son mortgaged everything to make a huge loan before completing the acquisition from Kirkline. After paying Kirkline, they don't have a lot of liquidity, but they have to deal with bank collections, company operations, and new projects. Especially with Hasbro, the copyright and film costs cost more than $200 million, plus the other film and television series produced. MGM has a lot of financial pressure. It's just that film is a very slow industry, so now Coopers have a problem, and I'm sure you've heard that MGM is going to remarket. However, relisting takes a process, and MGM can't wait that long, so it entrusts us to go through private placement. Robert Solney couldn't help but recall the news he saw some time ago. Whether it was Charlie Cooper or Eric Cooper, in an interview, they more or less expressed the idea of relisting. And what is the purpose of the company going public? Of course, it is better financing and development. How many shares are MGM willing to take? 20% in exchange for $1 billion. This is the valuation we give, as long as MGM maintains good momentum, and when it is back on the market in a few months, the market value will only be high. So why choose me? There are a lot of more suitable investors in the market. Solney asked, a little curiously. Ha, Robert, you are just one of our targets, because MGM put forward the condition that the private placement target cannot be several other big Hollywood film and television companies, and he does not want his opponent to infiltrate MGM. At the same time, the investor must also have a certain amount of experience in the entertainment industry, and he doesn't want to quarrel with shareholders who don't understand anything, so there are not many options left for us. These two conditions are reasonable, but they are not enough to dispel Robert Solney's doubts. After that, he asked someone to inquire about MGM's situation, and his friend was the main target of the group of executives who were swept away by the Coopers and his sons. The group was well aware of MGM's debts, and when they heard the $2.8 billion price, they couldn't help but gasp. I asked a friend at the bank for inside information, and after paying some benefit fees, I got the inside story that Cooper and his son were saddled with a $2 billion loan. The private equity fund also investigated, and it was indeed a regular company. They all corroborated each other, and everything seemed plausible, so that most of Solney's doubts disappeared. With Double Star Entertainment, Solney sat alone in his office and pondered, and now he was faced with a problem. The Olsen sisters have irreconciled conflicts with themselves, and since last year, in addition to the contract work they have signed, they have even deliberately bypassed themselves. As an agent who single-handedly cultivates them, he is completely disrespected. These two girls have drifted away from themselves, and judging from today's situation, if they continue to stay in Double Star Entertainment, sooner or later, they will completely tear their faces. Now the Olsen family holds 55% of the shares, and they only hold 45%. At that time, although the Olsen sisters' parents divorced because of emotional discord, The family would definitely stand together for the sake of interests, and he might not be able to resist it. Moreover, now that Double Star Entertainment is getting worse, the commercial value of the Olsen sisters is not as good as before, and it seems to be a good choice to leave. And MGM is not the next home of his ideal. The ability of Cooper and his son is obvious to all, and everyone is waiting for this lion to be relisted. Take out a pen and write down the numbers on the paper. Robert Solnay was counting his own assets, and after doing the math, he found that he had only a few $1,000,000 of liquidity left in his hands since he lost a fortune in the stock market. This amount of money is enough for a hammer, and if you want to go to MGM to get a piece of the pie, they won't even let you in. Shares. Maybe it's time to sell the shares of Double Star Entertainment. If the price is $350 million, you should be able to find a buyer. In exchange for a 7% stake in MGM, and when it relists in a few months, it will make at least a little more than $100 million. New York, HBO headquarters. Eric and Zach Thomas, the chairman of HBO, signed their names on the contract and shook hands, and there was a round of applause. Zach Thomas is a middle-aged man in his 50s, and although his hair is still black, it is most likely dyed, which can be seen from the furrows and wrinkles on his face. Looking at the handsome young man in front of him, Thomas couldn't help but sigh. Eric, in Hollywood, I have read countless people, but you are the most capable young man I have ever met. Eric's pretending to be surprised and modest was exaggerating, and although the Americans were flamboyant, this statement went too far and would attract a lot of hostile eyes when it was circulated. No, I'm not kidding. Zombie TV series. This idea is simply fantastic. We have zombie movies, and last year the UK also made 28 Days of Shock, but you are the first to do zombie TV series. I heard Frank de Labont say that the script outline was provided by you, right? Eric smiled shyly. That's right. It's indeed the outline of the script that I wrote, because when I watch the movie, I always have the feeling that the plot is too simple. You know, as far as the zombie movies on the market are concerned, they often only show a corner of the city, and it seems that the whole world is occupied by zombies. But the expressiveness of the picture and atmosphere is not convincing at all. And those zombies move slowly. They don't look like they have combat effectiveness at all. Can you imagine? Zombies don't eat people. They just fight people. I don't think this is normal. It's not bloody enough, and it's not apocalyptic. The most important thing is that the film is limited by time and doesn't show the struggle of human nature very well, and that's another big selling point of The Walking Dead. As a regular viewer, I would have this kind of regret, and I think most people would be like me, so The Walking Dead was born. Zach Thomas looked at his subordinates. Look at him. Look at this young man. You should learn his philosophy well. HBO is not short of money. What is lacking is people like Eric who dare to think and dare to do. With that, he grabbed Eric's hand again and said, although I only watched the first episode, I am extremely sure that I made the right decision, and I hope MGM will treat each episode as if it were the first episode, and I have a hunch that The Walking Dead will be the king of ratings in 2003. Don't worry, Thomas. The Walking Dead is also a child of MGM, and I will only cherish it more than you do. Ha 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 ha. After signing the contract, I had a meal with the other party at noon and agreed that MGM must contact HBO as soon as possible after making a new show, and both guests and hosts enjoyed themselves. After saying goodbye to Zach Thomas, Eric made an appointment to meet Sergei Hassenfeld again, and since he came to New York, he naturally wanted to contact him by the way. On the surface, he is still the glamorous CEO of Hasbro. Behind his back, he vomited bitter water with Eric again, which is a bit of a rebirth. Sergei's complaints are nothing more than the same old-fashioned. Work is not going well, the family is not interesting, and life is not fun. The child has also grown up, studying in other places, and he can't come back once in half a year, and when he comes back, there is no common topic between father and daughter, but he is more intimate with his mother. Even sex is a thing. It's not interesting to do too much, and the call girl is tired of playing those tricks over and over again. According to old Biden, what he wanted to do most now was to be with Kate Winslet. It's best to engage in underground love first, practice feelings, and wait for everyone to become lovers, and then play poker. When the atmosphere arrives, the love will come up, and it is most comfortable to roll the sheets in this state. What could Eric say in the face of this old den's request? He couldn't say anything. If memory serves, Kate Winslet is indeed single now, as if she has been divorced for several years. The problem is that you are married. How can people say that she is also a world-renowned female star, and she can risk being scolded and have an underground relationship with you? Thought everyone was Angelina Jolie? What's more, Eric doesn't know Kate Winslet either, so he can only shirk the opportunity to arrange a meeting between the two in the future. Farewell to Sergey, and a couple more anti-aircraft guns with Elena. Before we met, we said that we would only talk about the flesh and not about work. It's over, but don't use double-star entertainment to make problems for yourself. The girls also happily went to the appointment, and they didn't seem to care too much about their two nieces. After flying back to Los Angeles, it was already 1 o'clock in the morning, and by the time Eric got home, it was almost 2 o'clock in the morning. Looking at Xing, who had been dutiful in the co-pilot, Eric said, "Xing, since I became my secretary, it's been very hard." Xing hurriedly replied, "Although it is a little hard, I have learned a lot of things. Whether it is dealing with things or planning things, I feel that I have grown a lot compared to a few months ago. And my parents and family were very supportive. They encouraged me to work hard and put my work first." This answer is very Asian. Young people get a decent and promising job. As long as they are tired and don't die, they will do it to death, and they must roll up in death. Although parents will also feel sorry for their children's hard work, it is worth it to endure more hardships for the future, and will also do a good job of logistics for you and be your most solid backing. If it is replaced by white parents, then a large part of them will not pay attention to these, and in the eyes of white parents, children have their own lives. At most, parents give advice, play the role of a consultant, and even encourage their children to pursue freedom, whether it is too hard to quit and change jobs. The most important thing is to be happy. Xing's answer reminded Eric of his past life, and he suddenly asked with some curiosity, "What are your hobbies?" "Well, I used to go for a bike ride on weekends and go to the cinema to watch a movie." "Nice hobbies, both sports and literature, with your girlfriend?" "Yes, it's okay to ride a bike alone, but if you go to the movies alone, there will always be some people who look at you strangely, as if they are saying that you are a kind of shitty who can't find a girlfriend." Eric laughed. "Yes, it's a bit similar to school, one of the typical American bullies. But you're so busy with work right now, you definitely don't have much time to spend with your girlfriend. Let me guess, she complains a lot, doesn't she?" Chun Xing looked back and said with some embarrassment, "Actually, we have broken up. About 2 months ago, she couldn't understand me, and I really couldn't satisfy her." Busy job that has killed the object sounds a lot like something out of a movie show, such as Ross and Rachel in Friends. Eric sighed. "Feelings are a very personal matter. It stands to reason that I shouldn't comment, but this girl is not suitable for you. Her thinking is still in the campus stage, but you have already entered the maturity, and the contradictions will appear sooner or later." "Yes, I thought the same way, and after just one fight, she decisively proposed to break up, and she didn't feel like she loved me." Chun Xing's tone sounded a little indifferent. "And I thought about the boss until I make some achievements in my work. Love can be put aside, it doesn't matter. And to be honest, in fact, there are several girls in the company who have invited me, but I have all refused, not because they are not beautiful, but because I think the timing is not right." "Well, office romance isn't advisable, it just affects productivity." Eric agrees. "But it's not okay to suppress your emotions all the time. You haven't had sex for 2 months. How can you bear it? When you get me home, You and Peter will find a place to have fun and unleash the fire of the young man, who knows where the best service is. The driver, Peter, grinned. Yes, boss. There are no places in Los Angeles that I don't know about. No matter what kind of woman, man or she-male you want, I can find it. It's too late today. I think it's more important to go home and rest and have work tomorrow. Chun Xing was a little embarrassed. Eric waved his hand. I'll give you half a day off. Go enjoy it, young man. Otherwise, what's the use of you receiving such a high salary from me? And this is the entertainment industry. You have to learn this aspect early. Otherwise, when I appoint you to an important position, don't tell me that you can't even handle customers. Many people like this. Beverly Hills, Cooper's house. It's already 10 o'clock in the morning when I wake up, and the workers naturally have to go to work on time, but who makes themselves the boss? After washing up, I went downstairs and found that my father was rarely still at home. Dad, are you okay today? You look surprisingly idle. I promised your mom to accompany her to San Francisco to visit Joshua, your brother, who hasn't been home for a long time since he became the main player of the team. When are you leaving? In the kitchen, Mom came out with a freshly baked cookie, sealed and packed in a bag. All right, now it's time to go, dear. Dad gave Eric a look, meaning now you know what I'm waiting for. Yawning, Eric picked up the remaining crumbled cookies from the plate and put them in his mouth, chewing as he said, Let's go too. It's been a long time since I've seen Joshua. This guy doesn't even have a lot less phone. Mom looked at Dad, who directly rejected the offer. You'd better stay in the company in case anything goes wrong, and we'll be back in 2 days at the most, and we'll bring your blessing to Joshua. Okay, have a nice trip. Walking to the door, my father suddenly stopped, turned his head and said, I almost forgot to tell you something. The Oscars have sent an invitation, although we have not been shortlisted, but if you want to go, you can also go and see it. Wait, who are you invited? Or me? Or the two of us? Sure, it's the two of us, but I'm tired of going to that kind of boring party, especially when you don't have a work and you have to sit dry for hours. The camera sweeps over you to smirk, and then there's going to be a bunch of guys looking for you to drink, and I'm annoying enough of them that I'm not going to attend. And we launched a military strike on Iraq just a few days ago, and now most of the attention is on the war, and the media like to ask political questions at this time, and they will chase after the slightest question. But you can go and see that it is very helpful to meet more friends at work. After all, my network is not the same as your network, and sooner or later, you will have to build your own network. Dad's advice was pertinent, and Eric nodded, Okay, I'll think about it. Time has come to March 23rd, and today is the day when the 75th Academy Awards Gala begins. Even though viewership is down during the war, at least 40 million viewers across the U.S. are expected to tune in to the annual Hollywood event. Los Angeles, Hollywood Boulevard, Kodak Theater. At this time, the theater was already crowded, and a red carpet stretched from the second floor of the theater to a short distance from the theater entrance, with a total length of almost 60 meters. Is it long? In fact, it is very short because it used to extend directly to the Highland Street in the distance, and the length of the red carpet was at least 200 meters, which was not enough for short. On this day, media from all over the world flock to Hollywood, and even though the number of journalists per outlet is limited, the number is still exceeded. However, due to the impact of the war, not only did the red carpet be cut this year, but also the fans were canceled, and only the media remained at the scene, which inevitably lost the excitement of the past. At this time, on both sides of the red carpet, due to the reduction in length, the reporters were even more unable to stand in water, and the crowd was like sardine cans. All sorts of never-before-seen spear sprints aimed at the center, waiting for the first star to arrive. The staff of the organizing committee are working hard to maintain order to ensure that there are no accidents in the future. The Los Angeles police have implemented flight control and deployed thousands of officers to closely monitor the neighborhood to keep the big stars and taxpayers safe. Just a block away, an anti-war march is underway. A large number of people held up anti-war placards with such contents as "Bush betrayed the United States," "Bush is a dangerous element," and "Oscar demands peace," to express their desire for peace. But in contrast, in the same other neighborhood, there was a pro-war march going on, singing the hymn, "America, America," and holding up the words, "God bless America" of the Solidarity brand. Split didn't start 20 years later, it always has been in this country. In the midst of the noise, the curtain of the Oscars gala slowly opened. Kodak Theater, although there were no stars at this time, the atmosphere had gradually risen. In addition to the major media reporters who were stopped on both sides of the red carpet, the organizing committee actually had off-site hosts and deputy hosts. Unlike the host, who is responsible for the real party stage awards, these two positions are mainly responsible for off-site interviews. After all, let the stars simply walk the red carpet. Without saying a word or making a joke, how can they increase the ratings? It's true that it's not suitable for excessive entertainment during the war, but since the ceremony has been held, it can't be lifeless, and not everyone cares about the war, and there are many people who want to see their favorite stars. And the deputy host also has a responsibility, which is to save the scene when the host is temporarily unable to appear, which is equivalent to a layer of insurance. With the arrival of an extended version of the Ford sedan, the doors opened, and it was the crew of Adapted Screenplay who received 4 nominations for the ceremony. Although the number is not very large, they are all heavyweight awards. The Best Adapted Screenplay Award, Best Supporting Actress Award, Best Supporting Actor Award, and Best Actor Award, none of them are superfluous. Director Spike Jonze got down first, then pulled the car door open, and Meryl Streep, dressed in a dignified manner, helped the other party to get out of the car. Immediately afterwards, Nicolas Cage and Chris Cooper also got out of the car, and the 4 of them agreed to wear a black suit and dress, and an anti-war brooch pinned to their bodies. The brooch style was Picasso's Dove of Peace, which looked very solemn. The reporters instantly began to shoot wildly, and it only took a few dozen minutes for the first news to circulate on the internet. It's a pity that the seats in the Kodak Theater are limited, and it is impossible to invite every actor in every crew, so Tilda Swinton, who played Gabriel in Constantine and played the Ancient One mage in the Marvel Universe, was not invited, although she also participated in this play. And after the crew of Adapted Script arrived at the Kodak Theater, it seemed that the water was boiling and preparing for dumplings, and one crew and one car came one after another. The crew of The Pianist arrived, and it received 7 nominations, including Best Cinematography, Best Editing, Best Adapted Screenplay, Best Actor, Best Director, etc. But only 3 people walked out of the car: Adrian Brody, Ronald Harwood, and Pavel Edelman. This crew is undoubtedly the most controversial, and the key point of controversy is the director Roman Polanski. Through Roman Polanski's resume, everyone must admit that he is a master of cinema, but works are not equal to character. In 1978, Roman Polanski was charged by the local prosecutor in Los Angeles with sexually assaulting a 13-year-old girl, and Polanski pleaded guilty. But when he knew that he was going to face at least 50 years in prison, he decided to run away and go to France. This incident caused a storm and a lot of excitement in the city, and it also made the film master fall off the altar and become a shameless bastard who was scolded by thousands of people. So he couldn't attend the Oscars at all, and as long as he dared to set foot in the United States, he would be arrested immediately. The Pianist crew also knew what was going on, so they answered questions very cautiously, most of the time just smiled and waved to both sides, and then walked briskly into the theater. Immediately after that, the crew members of All the Time, About Schmidt, Chicago, Gangs of New York, Road to Doom, The Lord of the Rings and other crew members also arrived one after another, and many judges also received invitations, and they are also heads of major film and television companies like Eric. Originally, this year's red carpet was relatively short, and when a bunch of people walked up, the scene suddenly became a little crowded. Hey, Toby, look here, Toby. Can you laugh? Although Spider-Man was only nominated for 2 technical awards, the explosive box office undoubtedly made Tobey Maguire a top student of the new generation. So, seeing him appear, the media naturally pressed the shutter one after another. Responded to reporters for a while, just as Tobey Maguire felt his smile a little stiff and wanted to change his posture, someone suddenly covered his eyes behind his back. He's not panicking, it's a red carpet joke that comes up a lot, and the organizers and the media love it. Guess who I am? James Franco, is that you? No, guess again. Tobey Maguire suddenly realized that James Franco was not invited, and after thinking for a while, he said, Elijah Wood, it must be you, I can hear you. Eyes lit up, and sure enough, it was Elijah Wood, who played Frodo in The Lord of the Rings. Behind him are the bearded Peter Jackson, the actor of the Emperor of Aragon, Viggo Mortensen, and the screenwriter Fran Wales. At the same time, Fran Wales was also the wife of Peter Jackson. Otherwise, I would have thought that The Lord of the Rings was not nominated for Best Screenplay, so why would this lady be able to attend? Of course, she has her husband's beard. Toby, where's Sam Raimi? Why didn't I see that guy? Director Sam said he was going to be at home with his family, so he wasn't going to attend. Peter Jackson laughed. I think he's worried about making a fool of himself. After all, he only got the nomination for Best Sound and Best Visual Effects, and he must be worried about losing to me. And is it a reason to be with your family? Look at me. Sam can bring his wife with him. In this regard, what can Tobey Maguire say? He can't say anything. Both sides are big directors, and if you say the wrong thing, you will offend people. Fortunately, Kirsten Dunst, who played Mary Jane in Spider-Man at this time, came over. With burgundy hair and well-groomed makeup, she looks much more beautiful than in the movie. What are you talking about, Toby? I see everyone is laughing a lot. Hello, Director Jackson. I was so lucky to meet The Lord of the Rings at the Oscars. I love this series to death. Kirsten Dunst took the initiative to say hello, and his high emotional intelligence was undoubtedly revealed in a few words. Tobey Maguire hurriedly gave her the middle spot and whispered in her ear, Thank you, you saved me. Kirsten Dunst replied, I will repay you for saving me on the big screen. On the other side, Renee Zellweger and Catherine Zeta-Jones, who had just finished interviewing the crew of Chicago, saw that the crew of The Lord of the Rings and the crew of Spider-Man had met and hurriedly walked up. Although Chicago is also very good, the box office is too far behind these two, and a high box office means that it is liked by the audience, and the audience's liking represents the ratings. Standing in front of us now are Tobey Maguire and Elijah Wood, and I think you must know these guys, even if you don't introduce them. The corners of everyone's mouths suddenly raised, and they smiled. The moderator first pointed the microphone at Kirsten Dunst. Dunst, you're dressed so beautifully today. Whose clothes are these? Kirsten immediately advertised for the brand. It's St. Laurent's clothes, and the shoes are St. Laurent's design. Wow, it's really beautiful. I want to own a St. Laurent when I see you. So, let me ask you what you care about the most tonight? Kirsten Dunst looked up at the sky and wanted to say something about the war, but remembered the advice of the organizing committee to try not to talk about war and politics, so he hurriedly dismissed the idea. I think it's supposed to be tripping, you know. Female celebrities' dresses often have long skirts, but we can't pay attention to it all the time. One will fall down and make a fool of yourself if you're not careful. I think that's something that all female stars care about. Tobey Maguire immediately leaned over. If necessary, I can hold the hem of your skirt for you. 2. Technology awards were shortlisted. Spider-Man definitely can't talk about awards, and it can't talk about war, so it can only talk about some red carpet anecdotes. The host turned the microphone to Peter Jackson and asked, "Director Jackson, this time, The Lord of the Rings 2, was shortlisted for 6 nominations. How many do you think you can get?" Peter Jackson looked at his wife next to him. Fran Wales immediately said in an innocent tone, "Don't look at me. Say what you want to say. This is the Oscars, not Beverly Hills." Her somewhat mischievous tone seemed to imply that Peter Jackson was a strict wife, which immediately caused chuckles around her. Peter Jackson scratched his beard and put on a serious expression. "Well, let me think about it. Of course I want Best Picture, and this award carries a lot of weight. But Gangs of New York, All the Time, The Pianist, and Chicago are all good. They're all too strong. Martin Scorsese and Roman Polanski are my seniors, and Stephen Dudley and Rob Marshall are my juniors. I'm caught in the middle, but, I like to be caught in the back and forth by women, but men forget it." Speaking of this, the originally pretended serious expression could no longer be suppressed, and directly grinned and laughed. Tobey Maguire, Elijah Wood and others were a little surprised, and they dared to speak yellow at this year's Oscars, and they were too bold. But when they think about last year's host, Whoopi Goldberg, who opened with the phrase, "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this town that can create sexual lies," they can't help but feel relieved again. If a few years go back a few years, at the 1999 Oscars, the organizers even directly made fun of the sex scandals of Clinton and Lewinsky, then it would be called fierce. However, this kind of yellow joke boss just talks about it. The newcomer is not prestigious. It is best not to joke nonsense, otherwise it may attract verbal criticism. Moreover, the ABC of this year's awards ceremony is recorded, and if you think it is inappropriate, you can completely reduce the non-broadcast, and there are remedies. Peter Jackson's yellow joke made the host laugh too, but he felt inappropriate in an instant, and just as he wanted to change the topic, the bearded man suddenly pointed ahead. "Sorry, there's a familiar little guy here. I need to go say hello." After speaking, he didn't care about the host, strode through the crowd, and grabbed the other party's shoulders directly from behind. On the red carpet, Eric was chatting with Anthony Hopkins when he suddenly felt a sinking in his back, and when he looked back, he found that it was Peter Jackson, a fat man. He knew that the other party had a funny personality, and the two of them had drunk a lot of alcohol in private, and they had also done what a man should do. For example, playing games together. "I want to consciously face the wall." "You scared me, Peter. How did you walk at 200 pounds without making a sound?" "I'm loud, just look at them avoiding me. It's just that your attention is drawn to Anthony." As he spoke, he looked at the old man and said, "Dr. Hannibal, it seems that your words are not only useful on the big screen, but also in reality." Anthony Hopkins smiled slightly. As a veteran British actor, he rarely laughed. He only smiled when he was happy. He always paid attention to his demeanor. "Eric, let's talk. There's so many people here. I'm already feeling a little out of breath and need to go in and find my seat." Little joke, Anthony Hopkins walked down the red carpet into the theater. "This year's red carpet is too deserted. I can't hear the screams of fans, and I always feel that something is missing." Peter Jackson complained. "Yes, not only is there no audience, but even the female stars are very careful about their appearance, and they are a lot more conservative in their dress." Eric also whispered, In my opinion, Hollywood should focus on making movies and ignore the mess. Too much attention to politics will only ruin this place." I agree with that, but I can't help it. Hollywood is a big Democratic Party, and Americans have always cared about politics. Isn't that the case in New Zealand? Anyway, I didn't have a forced voice before I came to the United States, maybe because New Zealand is a small country. Two muttered and whispered. Of course the content cannot be photographed by the media. This is a much more serious problem than the yellow paragraph. Put Eric to the Lord of the Rings crew, and Peter Jackson introduced him one by one. Isn't Ian McKellen coming? Asked Eric. War, so Gandalf doesn't want to be at this year's Oscars. Hugo Vitzin replied. That's a pity. I like his white-robed wizard and Magneto, and I want to get to know him. It's very simple. I'll have a party when I have free time, and you guys will come over together. Bearded people like to pack big. A few people walked inside while chatting when they heard a cheer behind them, and the media seemed to suddenly become enthusiastic. The surrounding stars couldn't help but look back, only to see Spielberg arrive with the crew of Cat and Mouse Game. Tom Hanks and Little Plum, who had not yet started the water gun, followed him, and there was no doubt who caused the cheers. The reporter frantically pressed the shutter, and Leonardo DiCaprio, the key object of care, cooperated in various shapes. A few years ago, when Titanic triggered a global movie-watching frenzy, Leonardo soared into the sky, and the movie made him completely float. But unfortunately, the Oscar did not nominate him, and this also made the popular Xiao Lizhi angry, refused to attend the Oscar, and bluntly said that he did not take the Oscar in his eyes. So why Oscar didn't give him a little golden man until he finally impressed the Academy with the masochistic, The Revenant? Everything is for a reason. You ignore my love, I can't make you climb. At this time, it has been a few years since the Titanic, and Xiao Lizhi obviously realized that he was too arrogant at the beginning. You see, he is honestly cooperating with the media now, and the smile on his face is the same as the real thing, even if he is still not nominated this time. Spielberg walked directly to Eric's side, and the two met like old friends and hugged each other. Steven, I haven't seen you in a while. How are things going? With the preliminary results, we will talk in detail after the awards ceremony. Peter Jackson looked at the two of them with some puzzlement. I just led you to meet, but I didn't expect it to develop to this point. It seems that you are in constant contact behind my back. And the reporters also noticed the situation here and turned the camera on one after another. There are many foreign media who don't know who Eric is, but he is definitely not an ordinary person who can talk and laugh with these big directors, not to mention that he is so handsome. At this time, the host appeared at the right time. Look at you, you have attracted the attention of the audience. Why don't you take a group photo? Proposal was good, and given Spielberg's popularity, Eric pushed him to the middle, but Spielberg said that young people should stand in the middle. Peter Jackson's thought was that if Spielberg stood in the middle, wouldn't that mean I was inferior to him? And although I did seem to be a little inferior to him, I couldn't admit it. So I'm still going to have this guy Eric in the middle. So, the bearded man and the old man forced him in the middle, and Tom Hanks, Leonardo DiCaprio, and Hugo Mortensen were on the left and right. As for the others, let's stand up, and you can't even come in if you don't have enough coffee seats. In the midst of a large number of envious gazes, the shutter sounded.